Hello, it's Slaxer here. Ben ain't around today, so I'm guest presenting his channel. Hospital Porter's Pride and Dignity, stop the New World Order. Will you stop saying that? Actually, it is me. Well, this video is kind of a request. It's a request by Slaxer, who's one of my closest YouTube friends. And he actually did it on one of his videos. He asked me if I would do a video explaining my own feelings about something that he did. He said, and so I decided to do that, and I'm trying to emulate Slaxer's style in this particular video. I do recommend his channel, incidentally. If you've not seen it, you can go to the description box. There's a link there, and he's got some really great insights. His little vlog, which he makes as he's walking around the woods near where he lives, in the countryside, is very insightful, and he doesn't get as many views as he deserves. He's very underrated. So if you haven't seen his channel yet, please check him out. I decided to do a video based on what Slaxer asked me in Slaxer's style, which is what this is. This is kind of like the style that he does his videos in. Problem is that, I mean, there are no woods of the kind near where Slaxer lives, where I live, because he lives in rural Oxfordshire. I live in Oxford City, and there are no woods like that near where I live, unfortunately. This is the closest probably that I can get to at the moment. I mean, I could take more time out, head off to into the countryside, but to be honest, it'd be dark by the time I finish work and everything like that. I'm actually sort of in between jobs at the moment. I'm just heading towards another job I've got to do. So this is the nearest, I think, to the kind of environment Slaxer does his videos in. It's kind of like a wood. It's near a golf course, actually, in Cowley, in Oxford. It's not far from where I live, and it's kind of where I sort of go around when I'm working. Now, Slaxer was doing a very interesting video about psychopathy, whether it's contagious, or he said sociopathy, and in the video he distinctly mentions the difference between those two things. He feels there's a great deal of difference between psychopathy and sociopathy. I don't know. I mean, he describes himself as having his own sociopathic tendencies, and he didn't realise that was abnormal. He just thought that everyone was like that. But I think maybe the question is simply a question of terminology here. A psychopath is someone who has no feelings, has no empathy for others, feels no emotion really. Certainly not sadness at other people's feelings. And Slaxer's certainly not that. I think he does have a great deal of empathy. He's obviously a very loving father and a loving husband to Meg, his partner. A psychopath just exploits and zoom in there, and exploits every opportunity they get. They don't have any real feelings for either their partner or their children. Sociop, I mean, I think what you mean, Slaxer, Dave, his name's Dave, I think what you mean, Dave, is perhaps is in a sense antisocial tendencies. I think this is what you're talking about. Now, this is something you've described in your videos and I've observed in you, and it can be summed up by something you said in one of your earlier videos. You said, I just find other people exhausting. And I think this may be what you mean. When you mean sociopathic, it just means you have trouble getting on with other people. You have trouble, I don't know. I'm just making judgments based on what you yourself have said. So if I'm incorrect, I'm incorrect. But I'm interpreting your own words and your own descriptions as best as I can. That's more like Slaxer's wood down there, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, that just leads to the field, though. You'll see a field in a minute. I know you find you you often get into arguments with people. I mean, you've got into arguments with me a couple of times, and as you said in your previous video, you know, I don't want to fall out with you, and we've kind of just, I think we both sort of backed off just from the dispute we had, which is fine. I mean, in the greater scheme of things, it means very little. You've not done me any harm in any way, so I don't like falling out with people over little things. Do you see what I mean? But it's when certain people do things, it upsets you. I know it makes you annoyed at them. It could be, maybe it's things that upset you that don't upset other people. For instance, the shopkeeper you talked about going, oh, he's, you know, running commentaries on everything you're buying. I think that probably would annoy me a bit, but I don't think it would annoy me as much as it annoyed you. I don't think it would, because it's really drove you to the point where you lashed out at this person, and basically you've not had a good relationship with this shopkeeper since. Maybe that's it. But I suppose I'm different. I mean, maybe you would see me as, I mean, your own criticism of me would probably be that I'm just too accepting. I'm just a doormat, and when people do things that would upset you, they don't upset me. I don't deal with it. Things like that. My hump of hate is growing. Things like that. I don't know. I mean, I don't think that's true either. I don't think we're ever going to understand each other, you and me. We never will. But it doesn't mean I dislike you. I don't feel I need to understand you completely. You also, you made a very interesting point, which was, now a big difference between you and me is you talk quite candidly about intimate details of your life, whereas I don't like doing that. I talk about the conspiratorial angle, the Hapanwo-esque stuff, as I call it. Conspiracies, paranormal, government cover-ups, UFOs, ghosts, hospital porters, etc. Yeah. But you do talk very intimately about your own life, and you one thing you did say was, because I did mention in the comments box that people have, you know, I have a lot of the same baggage that you do in terms of memories of unpleasant things in my life. And maybe it's a good time to make a film like this, because I've really been through a fuck up period, shall we say. Last couple of days, maybe this is just the way things work. Things come along in groups. Maybe that's what seems to be the way of the universe. There seems to be a pattern to it. You know, they say bad things come in threes, or good things come in threes. Well, this is a case in which fuck-ups have come in, what I hope are threes. I really hope they are, because I've done 3 of them. The first one was I was at a client's house, and I went out and I forgot to lock the door. And they contacted me afterwards, and they said, Ben, you forgot to lock the door. Luckily, this person was back within half an hour, but you know, someone could have got in and nicked and trashed the place, made off with all the goods. And I was kicking myself. I mean, this person was very nice about it. So I'm just reminding you, Ben, you know, I know you mean well. Just remember to lock the door next time. And I said, there's nothing else I could say except I'm very sorry. And I don't know why that was, because I'm obsessed with security in my own life. I mean, you know, I annoy my housemates actually by saying, have you locked the door? Have you locked the door? Don't forget to lock the door. Things like that. And they go, yeah, Ben, we've locked it. Yes, we know. And things like that. They make a bit of a joke about it, you know. But I mean, my own bedroom doesn't really have a proper door on it. I think so. If anything, you know, I can't lock my bedroom, so to speak. But here's the field. But I mean, I forgot to lock this client's door, and I always lock every door out of habit. And for some reason, I forgot to do it, and I can't think why, and it's driving me nuts. So that was fuck up number 1. Fuck up number 2. When I got home, I did my radio show. I did Hapanwo Radio with Miles Johnston, and Miles and I had what I thought was a good conversation. It's one we recorded a couple of weeks ago. I played it. We referred to a couple of people in the in the discussion, and one of the people we referred to in the discussion got in touch with me immediately after the show, absolutely furious, and demanded that I remove the show from the archive, from the podcast archive. And I talked to this person, and I realised they did have a point, actually. I mean, to be honest, this is based on something that Miles said, not what I said. But I am the show's presenter. I am the producer for Panwo Radio. Therefore, I am responsible for its output and its broadcasting standards. So there's not a lot I could do. Except, I mean, this person was very, very upset, very angry. They said they would complain to Spreaker if I didn't do what they wanted. And well, basically, also this person who was complaining is, I believe, a targeted individual. They are harassed regularly by electromagnetic, biological and spiritual weaponry. So there's nothing I could really do apart from comply. I did remove the show from the archives. I'm now re-editing the interview, and what I'm going to do is I'm creating a new podcast from the originally broadcast show, and I'm going to upload that when I've edited out every reference to this person. That was fuck up number 2. Fuck up number 3 this morning. I had a blazing row with my brother on the phone. I won't tell you what it's about. It was about something really trivial, which I thought he was being unfair. He thought he wasn't. But me and my brother, we hardly ever row. I mean, we did when we were kids. He's 18 months younger than me. We've been close all our lives. Even when he went to Australia, you know, I'd speak to him on the phone. I went and stayed with him once as well. I went and spent a month in Australia with him, which is very nice. Now he's living back in Oxford, and I see him regularly, and we get on well. But we had an absolute. He was just like in my face about this trivial little thing. In the greater scheme of things, again, doesn't matter. So that was fuck up number 3. I just hope fuck ups come in threes. I really do. I'm digressing, aren't I? Anyway, where was I? Yeah. Unfortunately, we're coming to the end of the woods, which is a shame, so I might have to... What I'll do is I'll carry on filming anyway. Look, you're in Oxford. Like, I can't reproduce Slaxer's woods anywhere in this benighted little urban cesspit. I really can't. Anyway, where was I? Completely lost my train of thought. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So I mean, this is why I think it's a good time to make a video like this, because I'm bearing my soul in a way that Slaxer does all the time, and I hardly ever do. I mean, I have done occasionally. I mean, I've got a video called Centaur, which is about a very painful memory from my childhood, and it involves my mum and dad and their friendship with a very abusive man. A man I think was a psychopath. He wasn't a sociopath. He didn't just get angry with shopkeepers if they sort of like made annoying comments. He was a true psychopath. He had no feelings, and he was sadistic. He liked dominating other people. He liked mentally, he had some kind of psychological hold on my mum and dad. He was a psychopath who not only had no feelings, but he liked to control others, and he was able to do that. Like a lot of psychopaths, he developed these skills, and he did this to my parents. And his control of his parents allowed him to physically and emotionally abuse me when I was 10 years old. Oh, if you watch that video, you'll know that I feel vindicated. I feel vindicated, and I feel better because in 2002, he went round to my dad's house at the same time as I did, and I threw him out. And I physically threw him out of the house. And my dad says, "Why did you do that?" And I said, "Why do you think, Dad?" Since then, my mum's died, so nothing can be done about that. My dad's still alive. I'm still close to him. He lives not far from me as well. We live. My dad and my brother are now living in separate houses. My daughter lives with her boyfriend, and I live with three rather strange Sudanese guys. So funny, we're a family that don't live together, but we're very close. Now, I think Slax's video, mental illness being contagious, right? Mental illness being contagious. Well, I don't know about that actually, because I don't. It could be that if you are with someone who is destructive, they'll influence you and they can make you mentally ill. But it's not destructiveness yourself. It's kind of like it could be depression, it could be trauma as a result of being in the presence of this person or being harmed by this person. See, that could be the kind of thing we're talking about here. So, but I mean, in a sense, as I made a comment. This is the comment which Dave then wanted me to say what I thought. But it's, in a sense, does it? He said, well, people, they're just ill like anyone else. A person with psychopathy is no different from someone with depression. Though we treat people with depression very, very sensitively and sympathetically. Well, yet we treat people with psychopathy with contempt. We don't see it as anything that's wrong with them. I think that the difference is you can cure depression, I think, in most cases, but you can't cure psychopathy. But that's not really a difference as such, because it doesn't mean that that this person is it doesn't mean this person's not ill just because they can't be cured. So we're going to go into another wooded area in a minute, so it's going to get a bit more slaxery in a moment. I think as far as I'm concerned, does it matter? That was my point, the point I made in my comment. Does it matter whether someone is curable or incurable? It doesn't matter whether they're ill or not. You see, this is where the difference between judgment and commenting on someone's behaviour affecting you. One of the things my mum used to say is I was very judgmental of Centaur, this guy. Almost said his real name there. Must avoid that. I was very judgmental of him. And I said, I'm not judgmental of him. I'm commenting on how his behaviour is affecting me. The same way as I did the way he made my parents behave towards me. Because that was the worst thing, when you're 10 years old, and this guy is coming into your house and he's making your parents behave a certain way, negatively towards you, especially my mum. Well, actually, it was someone else. There was an even bigger problem with that. I'll talk about that in a minute. But, there's a difference between passing judgment on someone saying, that's an evil, nasty person who does these things because they're bad. They're bad, they're nasty, and that's why I'm judging them, I'm condemning them. No, there's a difference between saying that and simply commenting on how someone's behaviour is affecting you. So if someone behaves to me in a nasty way, I can comment on how that person how that person's behaviour affects me without necessarily passing judgment on that person. And it doesn't matter whether that person is evil or bad. It doesn't matter if they're curable or not. It doesn't matter if they're ill or they're healthy and they're just nasty people. It doesn't matter. The effect is the same, really, for someone who's in the presence of one of these things. I know it's controversial to say call them things, but they are. I don't call them human, because they're not human. I know this is another thing that Slaxer and I disagree with. Slaxer says several times, he said it in many of his videos, you know, we talk about the Illuminati, they're sort of reptilian overlords, and they're different from us, they're evil, they're bad, they're psychopaths. But really, they're just doing what we do, he says. There's no difference between the head of, say, the Rothschild family, you know, organising economic takeovers of foreign countries that will plunge their people into poverty, and a man who's frustrated with life, who goes out, has a few drinks, comes back, his wife starts nagging him and he punches her in the face. There's no difference. We're both the same. We're both it's just human nature. The fact is that the Illuminati have just so much more power than the rest of us, so their human nature does some more damage than our human nature. Hello. 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 Sweet little doggy there. And this is where I disagree with Dave. I do disagree. I think there is something fundamentally different about the psychological and spiritual component of the individuals we call the Illuminati. And I take seriously what David Icke says about reptilians. I take it very seriously indeed. I think it's real. The thing is, it's not just David who this comes from. I mean, a few weeks ago, Richard D. Hall did a big takedown of the reptilian thing with David Icke, and his focus was extremely narrow. He addressed purely some publications that David Icke brought out almost 20 years ago now, including the book The Biggest Secret, the Mother Goddess video, the Cradle Mutzwai interview, things like that. And he said, well, this is, and then he said why he thought this was simply a psyop, and David Icke was conditioned to put this stuff out there to discredit the truth movement and other conspiratorial ideas. Well, I wrote a long review of Richard's show, and the interview he did with Andrew Johnson. I explained why I think that's not the case. The reptilian thing is far deeper and far more complicated than that, and it doesn't just come from David Icke. The Illuminati, see, there could be humans with Illuminati personalities, okay, in the normal world who don't have power, but they do seem to be detected and their career artificially advanced. What I mean is, like, suppose you get like some backbench MP who's a really nice person who wants to do well, good for their community. You can bet within 30 years' time, when that person's ready to retire, that person will still be a low-level backbench MP. I can think of many examples. Tony Blair, on the other hand, started in Parliament. He started in Parliament not long after he was a graduate of Oxford New College. Well, he's a member of the Young Conservatives, incidentally. And then he went to the Bilderberg Group meeting in one of them, and then suddenly his career has advanced. So, in a sense, maybe Tony Blair had the right kind. He was made of the right stuff. So once the psychopathic reptilian elite of the Illuminati, when they have this position of power, then they can select people, even if they're just ordinary people to begin with, who are the right kind of person. They are the right kind of person to put up there. Which means not only is there an elite of people in the world that are fundamentally different on a mental, psychological, spiritual level than most average people, but they have they have a filter which prevents anyone else who is not of that kind of personality joining them. Although maybe that filter can go wrong. I mean, one of the plot lines of my new novels, a series of novels that I'm writing, which I published the first one, Roswell Rising, a novel of disclosure, is that somebody without that kind of personality trait accidentally finds themselves up in those high lofty attics of power. Okay, there's no woods now. We're going to go through a few blocks of flats. I'm almost at my next workplace, so I'm going to have to stop filming soon. I'll have to carry this on, I expect, maybe later on. But basically, I think there is a difference between us and them. And I've discussed this with Dave before. I mean, he knows my feelings on this, and I know we don't agree on that. But the fact of the matter is there is the pain. There is emotional. Like Dave, I think I have painful memories. You know, like he does. A lot of the talking he does is reminiscing of past events, some of which are pleasant, some of which are painful, and he speaks quite openly about this. I've never found the courage to do that, but I hope I will do so now. But I think the last days really made me think, oh God. 3 fuck-ups in a row. Let that be the last one, please. Now, my mum. My mother was I'll tell you a bit about my family background. My father was born in Bristol. He was a member of the Bristol Welsh community. So there's a big Welsh community in Bristol that's still there now, and he was born into this. And my mum was a Dutch woman who my dad met when he was I think he was living in Birmingham for a while. He went to training college because he was an engineer, and he worked for a company that designs equipment for pest control. He did that for his whole life, and he met my mum while he was in Birmingham studying. My mum came over as a student. I can't even remember what she was actually studying. It was, I can't remember. But she wanted to learn English. She learned English. But my mum, as I said, fell under the spell of some very destructive people. It's caused her enormous personality change. It was mostly my mum. My dad, I think, was a bit where I think he's just basically easily led. But my mum was totally and utterly, her personality was transformed by certain people. Okay, just swapping hands because this one's going to sleep. Okay, it's going to make my way up through here, and I'm going to have to stop filming. One of these people was someone who I'll talk about next. Actually, I'm going to stop filming now, and I'll start filming later on if I've got time. If not, I'll do a bit more tomorrow. Okay, because by the time I finish work, it's going to be too dark. So I might see you later, or maybe see you tomorrow. Well, I'm back. Yes, it's the same day. Again, I'm taking a walk to my next job, which is as slacksery as possible. There's some woods over there on one side, and there's a wall on the other side, but it's about as slacksery as you can get if you want to make a slackser-esque video in Oxford, in the city of Oxford. Now, I've only got one more job actually to do, then I'll be finished for the day. It's about 2:30. Yeah, I've got to take a rather bouncy and badly behaved dog for a walk, but compared to a lot of other stuff I do, it's quite easy. Yeah, well, so I'm just doing that now. This is going to be my last shoot of the day, definitely, because then if I do any filming afterwards, it's going to be dark, and then this video will become a fully fledged slackser noir. I've got camera envy. It's official. Look at that. Look at the size of that. Oh yeah. Anyway, where was I? Yeah. Now my mum and the various destructive influences on her life, mostly, came from. This is. I'm going to carry on talking. I know you've just. I haven't watched the other half yet, but I know I was talking about my mum and this strange thing that happened. Now, it's caused the thing I'm going to talk about. Now, Centaur eventually drifted out of our lives. It didn't happen. He didn't sort of go away. It just happened very slowly. He got married at that ceremony that I talked about in the Centaur video. That strange ceremony at the strange Illuminati tower in Oxford. And then he basically moved. He went and lived with his wife, because that was a relief actually. Because like I say in that video, he was with us all the time. He was like a member of the family. He was continuously in our house. Then he got married, so he went and lived with his missus. But she and he moved in a house not far from us actually, just a couple of streets away. It's almost as if he didn't want to be too far away, because he still visited regularly, just not as regularly. He wasn't there every bloody day. But he still. It's like he didn't want to go too far from us, because we were his sustenance. The beast doesn't go far from the waterhole, and that's what we were to him. We were a waterhole where he could come and satisfy himself and quench his thirst for power and domination whenever he wanted. But then, so slowly he drifted out of our lives. But then someone else came into our lives who was almost as destructive. And this is a lot more sinister, I think. I mean, Centaur was a psychopath, he was a loony, but I don't think he had any higher motives, so to speak. But this next person does, I think did. We're coming close to the house where I used to live, actually. I'll show you in a minute. Yeah, see the house on the end there? I used to live in that house. That one there. My bedroom was at the back. That's when I was living with my ex-partner and my daughter Louisa when she was little. Right, well, yeah, my mum was a cinema usherette. That was her job for many years. She used to be out in the evenings and didn't seem, you know, and then she decided to get an education. So she enrolled at university as a mature student at the age of about 32. Now that's something you could do a lot more easily in those days than you can today. You know, nowadays you have to get loans and things like that, and in those days it was quite easy to do a course at university if you wanted to. So, you know, to get funding from it, government, you get grants from there's the Adult Education Trust and things like that. It's crossover. And that was how you basically did it. And my mum did manage to get a scholarship at a university. I think at the which one was it? Yeah, it was Oxford. It was what's now called Oxford Brookes. It used to be called the Oxford Polytechnic. She did a course there in psychology, and that was her. And she got a degree. My mum got a degree in psychology, and then she went to a place called Rugby in Warwickshire, where she trained to be a counsellor and help people with their problems and things like that. I'm gonna stop filming while I cross the road because it's just noisy. Yeah, so my mum went and she got a degree, as I said, from Oxford Polytechnic, and she went and she trained as a counsellor in a place called Rugby. And after that, she quit her job at the cinema and she actually practiced as a counsellor for the rest of her working life. She helping people with their problems, things like that, relationships, depression, things like stuff like that, worries and concerns, etc., etc. Well, when she came back from the time she spent in Rugby, because she was away quite a lot. I was like about 14 or something, so, but I mean I was big enough to sort of look after myself a bit. But she was there about a year, but she used to come back every so often, obviously at weekends and stuff. And she brought this old lady with her once. This really, really wrinkly old Scottish lady. And she said, her name was Isabelle. And she was like, oh man, it's painful memories now, guys, painful memories. This woman kind of moved in as well. This old lady, this old Scottish lady called Isabelle, moved in to our house. There's a little doggy. Hello, doggy. Hello. Moved into our kind of house, and well, she didn't move in officially, but she was like always there. And she used to go in and sit in. My mum was disabled. My mum later on became disabled, and she was confined to bed. But she used to sort of like, she was always not in very good health. And she used to be on the sofa most days when this was after college and she was practicing. When she wasn't working, she would be on the sofa. And this old lady used to sit there and used to have like a kind of long conversations, chain smoking themselves into oblivion. This old lady was very unpleasant to me. She's like emotionally. There was a lot of what Slackser. It's appropriate we're doing a Slackser-like video here. There was a lot of what Slackser calls passive aggression coming from her. It started some of the time, otherwise all-out aggression. For example, I would walk into the... I would come back from school and stuff and said... my mum would say... and Isabelle would say, "Can you make me a cup of tea, Ben? Make me a cup of coffee, would you? Make me a cup of coffee." And I'd like, "Yep." Or she'd just be very sarcastic, and I'd come and say hello to my mum, and she said, "Yes, a cup of coffee would be nice, thank you," or something like that. And so she was very nice. Or she could be completely aggressive. You know, I'd say something, and she would disagree with me very aggressively. She's saying, "You're wrong, your foot," you know, and she'd get very angry. And that's the worst thing, is that this behaviour rubbed off on my mum. So my mum would behave the same way to me. You know, it's like when you've got some really, really painful memory, and it's something in your past that's really you want to keep there, and you don't want to keep thinking about because it's so upsetting. And this is a long time ago. This is like 25, a long time ago. But it still hurts today, to this day, when I think about it. It's not just Isabelle, this old lady Isabelle, but it's my mum. And the fact that my mum, when she was with her, would behave in the same way towards me. Would be aggressive, would be rude. And when you're talking about a kid age 14, you know, I think I was 13 or 14 when this began, and it lasted right up to when I was like 18 or 19 and I left home. It's... I'm going to switch hands on this. It is very... it's really painful. It's upsetting. It's and my mum generally underwent a massive personality change during the time when Isabelle was in her life. And Isabelle actually died a few months after my mum. So she was very old, she was in her 90s. But she was like in her 70s, like when she came and got involved in our life. So I always saw her as this wrinkly old lady, this hunchbacked lady hobbling along with a cane, physically very feeble, very fragile, but with a personality, with an aggressive, rude attitude. And who seemed to have the ability to make my mum behave the same way towards me. And my dad just... he just went along with it. He just didn't do anything. He just never did. He's not the type who does, you know. Oh yeah, and it's like, and my mum generally became much more hostile. You know, she became very hostile towards me. She underwent a massive personality change. As I said, when Isabelle was in our life, and it's... sorry if I'm a bit incoherent, but this is painful stuff for me to recall. And the worst thing was, I mean, then this carried on after my daughter was born. Isabelle was in my mum's life almost up to the end. I mean, towards the end of her life, the last few years, she really became very, very frail indeed, and needed, like, sometimes my dad would go and give her a lift and stuff like that, and bring the dragon to the den. Other times she'd get a taxi. The last few years of her life she didn't do much, but my mum was pretty sick by then and didn't do a lot either. But when my daughter Louisa was born, it redoubled. My mum became somebody who was tried to take over my daughter's life. And Isabelle was a part of that. My mum used to come in really cheap. My mum used to gloat at me and say, "Oh look, Louisa's got a little pet name." This when Louisa was like a little, you know, toddler and she was just learning to talk. Louisa's got a little pet name for Isabelle. She calls her Doo-Doo. I'm Daddy, I'm Nana, and she's Doo-Doo. And it was like a real glint of triumph in my mum's eyes. Like Isabelle was a part of the family. She'd moved in, she got her feet under the table, and she would try and she would talk to me like, she would like talk to me as if she would talk to me like as if I was my daughter's older brother rather than her father. And she would talk about me to other people like I was not my daughter's real father and I was just her older brother. Hello. And that, so I'm going to go up here a bit. As I said, this is the closest we get to nice countryside in this godforsaken city. This used to be cricket nets along here. There used to be a football ground pitch here. Now it's kind of just overgrown, forgotten. But it's nice. It's a nice place to walk dogs. If you've got a dog, I'll probably take the dog I'm walking down here in a minute. Oh, just checking the time. Oh, I've got enough. Yeah, I've got enough time. I'll walk this way. And you know, my mum. This carried on, and went to the point when Louisa was about 10 years old. At which point, social workers got involved in our lives, as they do with anybody. I mean, these days, I mean, this is a big subject. Brian Gerrish has talked a lot about it, a UK column. You know, it's hard to actually get through. If you're a family just bringing up a kid, like people have done for thousands of years, it's hard to actually get through that process without some social worker coming along, poking their nose in, trying to find reasons, not just concerns about abuse. They don't care about bloody abuse. If they cared about abuse, they'd be in the BBC arresting all those paedophiles who are in the place. No, they care about breaking up families. That's what they do. And so you'll have some social worker trying to looking for reasons why you're not a good parent, and at the end result, they can take your kid into care, and more people having their children taken into care than ever before. Sometimes for the most spurious of reasons. In Louisa's case, she had problems with the toilet when she was like about 10 years old. She had problems. She'd been toilet trained, but then she seemed to regress and she started messing herself and things like this. And they arranged appointments for us at the doctor, so I took Louisa along to the doctor. And then they said, "No, that's not enough, you're not doing enough." And they were looking for reasons why her care had to be handled by somebody else and not us. And a lot of it had to do with my mum. And my mum would talk to these social workers and tell them all kinds of things about me. Lies about me. Things that even now I'm not going to repeat. And Isabelle would be goading her on. Isabelle advised her. Things like that. Like, my mum would want to take Louisa out somewhere, and I'd say, "Well, I'll come too." And she'd say, "No, I'd like to take her out on my own." My mum wanted to be on her own with my daughter. A lot. She was very, very keen that I shouldn't be around. And so when my mum died in 2006, my dad was devastated, my brother was devastated. They cried and cried and cried. I didn't cry. I sat there and I looked sad for their sake, but it was a relief. When my mum died, the only emotion I felt was relief. And I still feel that, and I've never felt any sadness over my mum's death. I never grieved for her, because there was nothing to grieve for. She hated me. She hated me. When we had to, why, to what extent? Well, I don't know how much Isabelle was responsible for that, but I know that my mum underwent a massive personality change when Isabelle came into our lives. Isabelle, who is she? Well, you know, to me, she was just this old lady who was like a close family friend, or who was virtually part of the family. Was always around there, like Centaur used to be. But it was only that when I got into conspiracies and conspiracy theories, I started at Panwo. I discovered something extraordinary. This old Scottish lady called Isabelle, was somebody who, for anyone who researches psychological warfare, would know about. Her full name is Isabelle Menzies Lythe. And like I said, for people who look into psychological warfare, they will know that name. It's an absolutely infamous name. Isabelle Menzies Lythe was one of the founders of the Tavistock Institute of Human Relations, which was founded, I think, in the late 1930s. And she was one of the founders, along with other people, like there's a guy called Wilfred Byron, a few others. She was one of the pioneers. And her her first job was to deprogram soldiers from World War II who were apparently suffering from shell shock, combat stress. And as Brian Gerrish has pointed out, the same organisation is now doing that to Iraq and Afghanistan veterans from the British Army and the British forces, who actually don't exhibit the signs of, who've obviously had a tough time, but they only start developing the real serious signs of trauma when after they've had these counselling sessions with these mind manipulators. This was the person who's somebody I grew up with, and the question is why would this old lady take such interest in our family? Now this is where my conspirador starts whirling around and bleeping like crazy. Is it a coincidence? My mum goes off to this course, rugby, and she comes back with this old lady who somehow latches onto her. For some reason just latches onto her. Why? It's a difficult question. But I mean, I can't help wondering if it's something to do with me. Did somebody somehow know? I've spoken to several other people about this. They think they're suspicious. Did somehow somebody know what I was going to become? This tinfoil hat wearing loony that you are so familiar with, you know and love, or don't love, as the case may be. Does somebody know? When I was a little kid, did I tick some box on a form? Or is it something more esoteric than that? Because I didn't know, I didn't get involved in conspiracy theories because I found out that Isabelle Menzies-Live had been kind of like a childhood mentor to me. This mind manipulator, one of the most famous and most original psychological warfare experts on earth. I didn't get involved with conspiracies because of that. I found out who she was because of my interest in conspiracy theory. Is it a coincidence? Seems strange that because my mum was, I mean, I don't want to sound like snobbish or anything, but my family, nobody important. She was a cinema rusherette who became a mature student. She was much like many other millions and millions of people around the world. There's millions of people like her. But for some reason, Isabelle Menzies-Live chose her to become almost like well, my dad once told me that my mum regarded Isabelle as her mother, and Isabelle had kind of adopted her. So Isabelle's kind of my stepmother. I mean, my step-grandmother rather. I mean, my own grandparents I wasn't very close to. But one of them died before I was born, and the other three sort of like, well, I didn't have much to do with them. Two of them in Holland, of course, in the Netherlands, where my mum comes from. So that's the question. That's the big question. And I don't have an answer to that. But it's possible that someone decided to take some action in my life long before I ever started Hapanmo or got involved in esoteric, conspiratorial, paranormal matters, because they had to, I don't know, maybe it was a form of attack against me, I don't know. But anyway, I'm going to have to go back to work, and then that's going to have to be it for this particular video, because it's going to get too dark. But this is my reply to Slaxer. This is my little reply to him. Hello. And I hope he appreciates it. And I want to thank Slaxer for all of the work he does, because his vlogs are really, really good. I really love them. The information he puts out is incredibly thought-provoking. He's incredibly candid about his own life, very bravely so. And it's nice to comment in the comments box. And please do watch his channel. You'll find it very, very interesting, I'm sure. And listen to the interviews I did with him on Hapanmo Radio as well. There will be links in the description box to those. And so I'm going to end my little Slaxer-esque reportage with just a view of the field here. This little field that Slaxer often ends his videos with. I hope, Dave, you're a good man, and I hope you find peace. I really do. And if it's for what my advice is worth, if you can find some way to be at peace with other people's behaviour, and when I mean other people's behaviour, I don't mean people who are harmful, like those I've talked about are, but I mean people who simply have strange habits which you find annoying. I mean, at the end of the day, it's no big deal if Freely the Banana Girl has some little what's the word? Some little kind of catchphrase or cliche or slogan that it's not something to get angry about. I mean, nothing makes you the injured party in that situation. Whether she says that silly slogan or not, it makes no difference to you. It doesn't improve your life in any way if she was to stop doing it. If you can find a way to just be at peace with people's little foibles, that would be. I think you'll find a lot more happiness that way. And just one more thing, Dave. What on earth does Femernyserm mean? I tried googling it. Did you invent that word? If so, what does it mean? So it's suffice to say, thanks for everyone for watching. Hospital Porter's pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order. And as Slaxer himself likes to end his videos, thanks for watching. Speak soon.